Good evening and welcome to the Wednesday, December 14th, 2022 Finance Committee meeting. Committee members present, Councilors Cruz, Boschman, and myself, Di Natale. Please be advised that FATV is conducting an audio and video recording of this meeting for public broadcast. Oh, Councilor Zarella has just joined. I ask that anyone else in the audience who is recording this meeting to please identify themselves for the record now by standing and stating their name and address. At this time, I ask that all electronic devices be placed into silent mode. Public forum. Anyone wishing to speak before the committee may do so for no more than 2 minutes. Please state your name and address for the record and the item on which you wish to speak. Is there anybody in the audience wishing to speak? Seeing none. 27822, in order that the City of Fitchburg hereby approves the expenditure of additional funds from the Massachusetts Executive Office of Public Safety and Security grant in the approximate amount of $108,041.90 for the purpose of said grant, which is to purchase body-worn cameras and accompanying hardware. Chief Martineau.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, this is an exciting night for the Fitchburg Police Department that I have the opportunity to bring this grant in front of you. The Fitchburg Police Department has been working diligently the last 2 to 3 years to bring this latest technology to the city of Fitchburg and to the citizens of Fitchburg, namely body cameras for our police officers. As we're well aware of, the Police Reform Act that was signed into law in 2020 spoke about transparent law enforcement, and there's no better tool for transparency than to provide body cameras for your police officers. Body cameras are an expensive adventure. It is the way of policing. It will be the norm in policing, and I believe the city of Fitchburg is ahead of the curve. We had a lot of work to do this last year, specifically regarding policy, deployment of body cameras, namely what type of body cameras, and we knew that there was grant opportunities out there to help pay for some of this, since it is an extremely costly adventure to bring to any community. So we started working on policy immediately. I would like to thank the Fitchburg Police Union for their collective support. We worked on it together on policy. We met many times. We went over different policies that were common throughout the state and through the country, and we were able to draft policy that was in agreement with both myself and the Fitchburg Police Union. Once we had drafted policy, the next step was to look at the cost. And, excuse me, let me back up. The next step was to look at products, body camera products. There's many, many different body camera products out there. Some of the most notable are Axon, which are the one we're going with, Motorola, WatchGuard, to just name a few. We looked at all different products and tried to evaluate what would be the best for the city of Fitchburg and our police officers. Ultimately, we chose to go with Axon for many different reasons. Axon is the leader in body camera technology, not only nationally but across the world. But more importantly, our sister city, Leominster, has a full body camera policy, program in place as we speak. Every police officer in the city of Leominster wears a body camera. They went with Axon, and that was kind of the sole determining factor that I finally decided to go with Axon, because the technology communicates with one another. If Fitchburg police officers are working collectively with Leominster police officers, that technology speaks to each other. Some of the highlights or features of body cameras, for instance, and there's a lot to it, but some that I'd like to highlight are the capability that body cameras turn on immediately on different things, where a police car, where the lights turn on in a police car, the body camera turns on automatically. If a police officer has to draw their firearm, as soon as they draw their firearm, the body camera turns on immediately. If a police officer has to deploy their electronic controlled weapon, the body camera turns on automatically. What I like about Axon is Leominster has that technology, so if we're on scene with a Leominster officer and they draw their weapon, their taser or something of that feature, our cameras go on automatically. They interface. So I thought it was important that we interface with our closest partner, that being Leominster. So we chose to go with Axon, and after the choosing to go with Axon, we started to have to look at the different packages Axon provided. And just like buying a car, there was different packages. There was the Cadillac, there was the mid, and there was the low of the different packages. Axon had a product show this past summer at Fitchburg State. We attended. We looked at the different packages. It would have been nice just to say, let's go with the Cadillac, but understanding, fiscal constraints, we decided to go with the mid-level package and not really go with the extreme package. That being said, we started getting prices from Axon, and we knew that the equipment was going to cost X amount of money. At that time, the state had offered a grant opportunity through EOPS. This was a federal grant that was being administered through the Executive Office of Public Safety. We put in an application. We put in an application to purchase 93 body cameras. 93 body cameras would be enough body cameras from every police officer, from the junior police officer right to my office, who will be issued a body camera. In addition, any police officer that is a special and is certified by post will be issued a body camera. So a lot of time and effort went into this. As I said, this has been a good 2 years in the making. We're excited to be at this point now where we're in agreement with the union, we're in agreement with policy, we have a camera picked out, we received substantial funding for the purchase of the equipment, and I would anticipate, with the approval of council, with the approval of finance, that at some point we will order the cameras in January. I'm told by the company that it's about a 4-month wait right now because of product supply. But I would anticipate cameras to be live in the city of Fitchburg by July of 2023. I could probably talk more about it, but I'm going to turn it over to the councilors. I'm sure there's some questions relative to body cameras, but like I said from the very beginning, I'm excited that we're at this point right now. So I'd be happy to entertain any questions you may have regarding body camera technology.
The cost of the cameras, is there also a yearly maintenance agreement with Axon for if there's a malfunction or?
The cameras, that's a twofold question. So the cameras we're purchasing, the equipment, the $108,000 and change that's before you this evening, that's a 5-year package where that maintains the cameras, all the equipment, anything that happens with the equipment itself. Above and beyond that, which is the additional cost to the city, is the storage. As you're well aware, 93 cameras or 83 cameras collecting data 24/7 out on the street, the storage is absolutely huge. And one thing I liked about Axon was they provide a product called Evidence.com. It's kind of the gold standard on retrieval of body camera footage. It has the capability to interface with the district court. For instance, if the district court has got a discovery for information, we connect them through Evidence.com. The district attorney's office, if they have a request for discovery for body camera footage, we utilize Evidence.com. This is, I call it the data package. I had conversation with the mayor about the data package because the data package comes with a cost. We felt that this was important to the city and we're going to move in this direction. So that data package will be part of my budget in FY23. It's to be determined if it will be under the police department's budget or the IT department's budget, because quite frankly, it's an IT product. However, we're going to be the end user of it, so we still haven't determined whose budget it may be presented to the city council next year, next June. But it will be in one of the two budgets that I will call it the IT package part of this.
So it's a 5-year agreement for all maintenance and equipment?
It's a 5-year agreement. The 108 pays for the equipment.
Yep.
We have to pay for the data storage part of it.
Right.
The IT part of it, and that's a 5-year commitment.
Okay, thank you. President Zarella, and then.
Thank you. First, I just want to say congratulations on this. I actually remember in one of our last meetings over at Memorial, before the pandemic and everything, I forget who asked you the question about body cams. Someone asked, and you had said, we'd love to have them, we just can't afford them. So I'm very glad to see that this has come together for you, and I'm looking forward to it going online. I do have just a couple quick questions. One is just, could you briefly summarize what the difference between the packages you were looking at was? You said you would have loved to go with the Cadillac package, but you couldn't. And obviously I understand that, but just out of curiosity, what would the Cadillac package have included that this does not?
The Cadillac package came with a training mechanism similar to what kids play with today with gaming features. Pretty cool. And I went through it down at the Civic Center this past summer. It's a training feature. It's the virtual goggles that display a whole host of scenarios right in front of a police officer. And that training feature will you go through different scenarios, whether it's a deadly force incident, whether it's just a standard domestic call or a disturbance of the peace. The training package was really cool. I just, you know what, we had a lot of things going on this year. We were dealing with collective bargaining stuff, and I just realized that, you know what, it's a great tool. Maybe we can find some funds in the future for it. But we had to weigh what was important to us. You know, we're in the middle of contract negotiations with the union. That one piece puzzle. Then we have to bring this technology to the city. We have a constant need to upgrade our equipment. So, you know, I could have gone to the mayor's office and said, you know, let's go for the Cadillac, Mr. Mayor, but I was very keen and aware of the other needs that are going to be presenting us this year. So bringing this technology, not with the Cadillac version, but the Chevy version, I thought it was the most appropriate step.
Certainly, and I would agree. I was just curious what the other options out there were.
The biggest part of it, Councilor, was the training part of it. There's a taser function that I spoke of where if you draw your taser, your camera goes on automatically. I didn't go with that version because our tasers are still, our electronic controlled weapons are still under warranty till 25. So I didn't go that route either. Leominster, their tasers, I believe, were out of warranty, so they went with the entire big package. Because my electronic control weapons still have shelf life on them, we decided not to go that route and just stick basically with the cameras, the storage capability, the IT capability, and you know what? We've opened the door, and you know, we can bring this conversation up in a few years if we want to expand it.
Yeah, certainly. That sounds very, very cool. My other two questions are, one is just, will the policy that you've devised around this be publicly available?
All my policies are publicly available.
I thought so. Just wanted to double check.
At this point, anybody watching, you will not see this policy yet because I haven't issued it to the rank and file. It's been agreed upon. As soon as I issue it to the rank and file and make it part of official department policy, this is retrievable for anybody to see exactly what is the policy of the Fitchburg Police Department, i.e., when you're recording, where you're recording, notices of recording, retention. I mean, it goes on and on. When I tell you I spent 6 months with the union discussing policy, this is probably the most important thing that we did in regards to this body camera program.
I can certainly believe it. I've been involved in drafting policy documents myself, and I know how nitty-gritty they can get.
So the short answer, this will be public at request.
Excellent. I'll be looking forward to taking a look at it, mostly for my own curiosity more than anything else. And actually, I think that will end up answering what was going to be my third question. No real reason to ask you specifics about the policy now. When
you may, if you like.
I guess I was just curious. Under what circumstances other than the automatic activations would officers have their cameras on?
Sure. It's spelled out directly in the first paragraph that officers equipped with body cameras shall activate its recording function as soon as practicable under the following circumstances. All police and citizen encounters, which include 911 emergency calls, all non-emergency calls for service, all police-initiated stops, when ordered by a supervisor, and all pursuits or emergency driving as it is safe to and practical to do so. So basically, any encounter with a citizen, whether it's a loud music complaint or an escalated disturbance, that body camera shall be turned on by policy. Some of the harder questions, and as an attorney you will appreciate this, is when you turn them on in a private residence, because there still is an expectation of privacy. So a lot of that was drafted with the union. We were going through guidelines through our legal counsel, and actually under the Police Reform Act of 2020, they created a committee, the Body Camera State Policy Committee, which drafted guidelines, which gives guidelines on when you're recording in a private setting. But the bottom line is, if the police department has legal authority to be there, we have legal authority to record.
Right. One more question on that, just because it occurs to me that someone watching might be wondering. When you talk about citizen encounters, does that mean anytime someone, walks up to a cop standing on the street corner, they have to turn on their camera and record?
No. I don't think we could afford that type of storage.
I didn't think so.
A lot of it's going to come down to common sense. But if you have a radio call and you're going to someone's house, or you're going to a car accident, you're going to a fight in the street, that is going to be recorded. The level of transparency that this is going to create, it holds everybody accountable. It holds my police officers accountable, and it holds the citizens accountable for their actions. This is a big step in law enforcement right now.
Yeah, well, again, thank you for doing this, and congratulations on the grant funding. I'm really enthused about this.
Thank you.
Councilor Boschman.
You said 93 or 83 police officers. Fitchburg State, since we work closely with the university, are they going to have them too? Body cameras?
I can't speak for Fitchburg State. In a perfect world, Counselor, I would like to say yes. But I can't speak for Fitchburg State because you're dealing with a different environment. You're dealing with a higher education environment. You're talking with a educational setting. Once this becomes public record, you're going to see a part in here that we specifically speak about Fitchburg Public Schools and our SROs. SROs, I have to have additional discussion with Bob Jokla in regards to what the school would like to see with their SROs on recording. So I hate to comment on Fitchburg State because, quite frankly, it's out of my realm. But in a perfect world, I'd like to see them have them as well.
Okay. Now, you talked about 5 years guarantee. After 5 years, with the warranty going, because I got a cell phone that's guaranteed for so long, and after that,
Sure.
They cost an arm and a leg. What does an average camera cost? Say if I go on, I'm a police officer,
Yep.
and we're having a tussle on the street when somebody's doing a crime, and they break. It breaks, because they do break.
So the 93,
looking at?
just for the camera itself, the square box that sits right here, 93 cameras is costing us $65,000.
65, 93.
Yep. That's just for the box. I can only imagine as technology gets better and better, that price you would hope would come down. But I don't want to look 6 years down the road. I want to concentrate on the next 5 years.
Now, you're talking about storage. What are we looking for at a cost for storage? The city of Fitchburg.
Yep. The storage cost per year. Storage costs for 93 cameras based on what they believe will be our footprint, our cloud, I think they call it a cloud footprint, and retrievable storage, and having the program called evidence.com. The yearly cost is $132,991.
132, so you might as well say 133,000.
Okay. 133.
And that's going to be a fixed price, it's not going to start going?
That's a fixed cost under contract with Axon for the next 5 years. Can't
5
go up and it can't go down. Yep.
Your 93 cameras, the cost is 65,000 and 123,000, 33,000 for 5 years. That's per year, right? 133,000 per year?
Yes, sir. Yep. So the camera cost, there's no cost to the city through this grant. The $108,000 is picked up by grant.
Right,
Those
I-
cameras are warranted, guaranteed, replaceable for free, up for 5 years. There won't be any cost on cameras. What the cost is moving forward is the IT part of it, the storage capability, and the evidence.com platform to share interface with the district courts and the district attorney's office is $133, rounding it up.
Now, let me ask you another question since we're talking data. Like a cell phone. You get packages, you get this much data with this price, you get this much data with that price, and you get that much unlimited data with this price. Do we get the unlimited data, or do we have X amount of time? We say you go to a crime scene, you get your body camera on. If it was Boschman would probably forget to shut it off. So you're running all up for the whole 8 hours in the morning or 12 hours. How much data do you actually get?
So, well, first of all, it's impossible to let it run. It will shut off on its own.
Oh, it does?
It's impossible for just to leave it alone and let it record for 24 hours straight. There's a 16-hour shelf life battery on each unit, and there's different safeguards in place. Axon, being the leader in the nation on body cameras, they're able to determine on our calls for service how many police officers we have, what our anticipated cloud storage will be. So they assured us that there will be no issue with storage for this large amount of data that will be collected daily by our officers. And going back one step further, under policy, there's retention policy on how long we keep data. So if you and I are having a conversation at a car stop because Paul Boschman was speeding, that camera footage will be deleted in a shorter time than if we responded to a call that resulted in an arrest and a possible trial. We will hold on to that footage for a much longer time than the encounter I had with you on a traffic stop. So the data will be deleted quite frequently as well.
Oh, and we'll get, all right.
And that's all covered under policy on when I can delete data and when I cannot delete data.
All right. All right. I yield the floor to the
Councilor Cruz.
junior counsel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I just want to echo President Zarello's sentiments, I think, and commend you on getting this grant. I think it's terrific for the city of Fitchburg and your department. Like you mentioned, like you said, not only for accountability for your department, your officers, but also citizens as well in any sort of incident that might happen. Some of my policy questions are already answered. I just got one more for you. Say in a scenario where an officer's camera is turned off and doesn't get the footage that it was meant to get, what is the policy for the accountability there?
Could you repeat that one more time,
Yeah.
please?
So say hypothetically an officer's camera is turned off when it shouldn't be. It should have been on.
Okay.
What is the policy there?
So I have a police officer that doesn't follow policy and doesn't turn on the camera when they should have turned on the camera. Is that what you're asking?
Correct.
Simple. Investigation, if discipline's warranted, it will happen. A lot of times it can be corrected through education. I've spoken at length with Chief Kennedy from Leominster. There's an introductory stage where we're all learning, and there's going to be times where a police officer, especially in the beginning stages, that they don't hit the camera or they hit it too late or something like that. So there's going to be times in the very beginning where we have to educate our police officers on the proper deployment of those cameras. Every officer in the city will go through substantial training before they're deployed on the street. So we're going to make sure that our employees understand how to deploy it, when to deploy it. They're going to be read this policy. And just like any other policy within the Fitchburg Police Department, if you don't follow policy, there's consequences. And that's why you create policy, that your organization is running on policy and you hold your employees accountable. I don't expect that, but I do expect there's going to be times that a camera may neglectedly not be put on, and we will address those on a case-by-case scenario because we will be guided by policy, not only policy on body cameras, but policy on discipline within the police department.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned the cameras, it's about 90 or 63,000 you said for the 93 cameras?
65.
65 for the 93?
Yep.
And is the other half of the grant, to get to the 108 number, is that training? Is that, what else does this grant cover?
20,000 of it is the Signal sidearm kit. That is the kit that is attached to every police officer's duty holster. That's a signal that if that weapon comes out of the duty holster, this turns on automatically. So that was $20,000. And then there was miscellaneous stuff. $16,000 goes to docking bays. So when a police officer starts their shift, we have enough cameras where everybody's issued a camera. It sits in a docking station. The docking station was $16,000. Docking station does two things. It charges the product, but more importantly, it takes that data and it uploads it to the cloud. So when you come in at the end of your shift, by policy, you take your body camera off, you put it into the docking station. It takes anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes based on each shift, usually an 8-hour shift, to upload all of that data from that police officer's tour of duty to the cloud that is now part of evidence.com that's retrievable for supervisors to see, for the police officer to review prior to writing a report. It creates a very efficient tool when it comes to reliving the incident with what the officer was on so that they can record the facts accurately. And it's going to create much better transparency in the court and reliability on testimony as well.
I think it's terrific. I yield the floor and I make a motion to approve.
Second.
On the motion, to get one question. Can I ask
For the
one?
chief?
Yeah, for the chief. You don't mind?
I withdraw my motion.
One question, is everybody get, when you give a camera, they're going to be, that's going to be their personal camera? In other words, when I take these headphones, they got a port over there, and I just stick it in there.
Yeah.
And then when I want one, I grab any one I want. Are they going to have the same thing, or are they going to be, they're going to have their own?
Same exact thing. Their firearms are specifically issued to them.
Okay.
Their cuffs are specifically, their body cameras are specifically issued to you.
Okay, that's all I want to know. Okay, thank you.
Mo-
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve 27822. If there are no objections, I'll take this on unanimous consent. Seeing none, it passes. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
27922, in order pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 269 of the Acts of 2022, City Council hereby approves the granting of a 5% cost of living adjustment as voted by the Fitchburg Contributory Retirement Board during a meeting held on November 22nd, 2022. I guess I'll start with a question, Mr. Brooks, about this. What has been the historical COLA we have granted? Or let's start here. When was the last one?
So historically, the Fitchburg Retirement Board has granted a 3% COLA annually, and that 3% has been on the first $12,000 of a pension. So it amounts to $360 a year, $30 a month. This particular request is a one-time request to grant a 5% COLA instead of a 3% COLA. The legislature in the last year granted a 5% COLA to the State Retirement Board retirees and the Mass Teacher retirees, and then gave local boards the option of also giving a 5% COLA with the approval of the mayor and the legislative body in a city like Fitchburg.
So we just increased the base to 14,000.
We increased, last meeting, you increased the base to 14,000. That is effective July 1 of 2023, so next July. This particular increase is a one-time for July 1 of 2022.
So this is still based off the 12,000.
Based on the 12,000, yes, sir.
So instead of 360, it would be 600. 5% of 12,000? 600?
Yes,
So that amounts to
$50 a month.
$50 a month.
They currently already have been getting $30 a month. We've already granted 3%,
So-
so we're granting an extra 2
Yeah,
on this.
so I'm asking because when you look at this in a vacuum and compare apples to apples, you know, I hear a common argument about, well, people out that are not on pensions or public payouts, they don't get 5% increases. They're lucky if they get 1 or 2. While that may be true in most cases in the private sector, and even many cases in the public, I wanted to emphasize that the increases that our retirees get every year, or whenever we grant them, is only based off a very tiny percentage of their overall payout. So if I have a pension of $100,000, I'm not getting a 3 or 5% increase on the full $100,000. I'm only getting it off of $12,000, or effective next fiscal year, $14,000. So if I make a salary of $100,000 in the private sector and I only get 2%, I'm getting a $2,000 increase. If I'm a retiree making $100,000 on a pension, I'm only getting $360, or in this case, $600.
Correct.
So I wanted to just emphasize to everyone that's watching and listening that while it is true from a percentage standpoint that the private sector and many instances in the public sector, people are not getting 5% raises, we have to be careful when we say that, because for retirees, they're not getting the increase on their full value. They're getting it on what, $12,000. I mean, if I got a pension of $100,000, I'm only getting an increase based off of 12% of what I've earned. Whereas everyone else, they get an increase on the full value. So for me to say, as a private sector employee and a taxpayer, if I get a 2% raise at work and I make $100,000, that's a $2,000 increase. I'm still making 3 times more of an increase than a retiree is making $100,000 if we gave them a 5% raise. So mathematically, for the public's edification, it's not apples to apples. So you could make the same amount as a public retiree and get a less percentage increase in your pay for the year than a retiree would, but you're making more than the retiree is. You're getting more of an increase, dollar for dollar, as that simple example I just gave. If I make $100,000 and they make $100,000, they get a 5% increase, I get a 2%. I get 2% off the full $100,000, so it's $2,000. They're only getting 5% increase on the first 12, and they're only getting $600. So I'm still getting more than 3 times more of an increase than they are, even though the percentage is bigger for them. So I used to fall into that trap many, many years ago until I finally understood how the pension system works. And so I just wanted to make it clear that one of the first things that I get when these come up is, well, I don't get 5%. I don't even get 2%. Okay, it's a case-by-case basis if you're comparing it to your own individual situation. But the historical average for increases are usually between the 2 and 4% range. So 5 would seem a lot to a lot of people. But when you're basing it off of that base value of $12,000 or even $14,000, it dilutes that percentage considerably. So I just wanted to make that clear, because I support this based on the fact that whether it's $360 a year, and I'll just play devil's advocate because I'm an accountant. If I'm making a pension of $80,000 a year and I only get an increase on the first 12 at 5%, that's $600. You know, it would go from 80,000 to 80,600. It's really only a 0.0075% increase. So as I said earlier, your percentage of 5% is diluted significantly when you annualize it over the full value. So that's why I haven't hesitated to support these increases. I think you forgot to shift your decimal point. Oh, sorry. Maybe so, but the point still stands. So that's why I've typically not voted against these, because when you mathematically draw it out, it is considerably less than what many other people get, whether it's 1%, 2%, 3%. Debating the value of a pension worker itself is a different subject. It's a different discussion. We're talking just COLA adjustments. And I believe I saw in the news a few weeks ago that federal government has approved a north of 7 or 8% increase in the cost of living adjustments for Social Security to account for the inflationary issues. So I don't think it's out of the realm of feasibility, nor it's certainly within the realms of parity. And I just wanted to highlight those mathematical differences between getting a raise on your full salary versus getting a raise on only a fraction of your pay, as it is in this case. So I will be supporting this because, as the auditor mentioned, we were giving $30 a month historically, and this will just raise it to $50 a month, so $20. And in the inflationary world we live in, $20 increase will probably buy you 4 or 5 hours extra of heating fuel. I don't know. It's not a lot, but it's within reason, in my opinion. Thank you. Councilor Zarella?
Thank you. First, I just want to thank the chair for explaining that in detail, because that is something that I notice quite often with everyone, including myself, although I did know this particular thing. There's often a temptation to jump to a conclusion that is simple, very reasonable, and very incorrect. If you don't fully understand exactly what it is that you're examining. And I'd like to also just reemphasize, we are talking about here a grand total increase, if we vote in favor of this, of a one-time boost of $20 a month to our retirees. That does not seem outrageous to me. That seems like a very good way to, put our money where our mouth is when we tell our current and former employees that we respect and value their contributions to the city over the years. And it will, correct me if I'm wrong, Auditor Brooks, but I believe this will barely make a dent in our total budget. This will be fairly trivial.
Yeah, yes, the cost of this has already been calculated into the funding schedule for the pension system.
And what is the total cost of this increase? Just the 3 to 5, not the total 5?
It would be $240 per person, and I believe there were 600 roughly.
144,000. 144,000.
144,000.
Okay, and that's over how much time?
That would be an annual cost.
Gotcha. So, right. So this is not going to tank our budget. This is not going to hurt us. So I agree. I'm in favor of this. And actually, along the same lines of, making sure that everything's in proper perspective. I've said this a bunch of times. We talk about 144,000. Yeah, I could do an awful lot with 144,000 extra dollars in my own personal bank account. But when you compare the average middle-class household's annual income, or annual budget, rather, in central Massachusetts, which surprisingly enough, I actually looked this up a few days ago, surprisingly enough, it's actually close to $100,000 median. I know, I see Councillor Boschman giving me a look. That's the same look I had when I looked it up, but apparently that's what the, I believe it was the Department of Labor lists it out as. But when you compare that to the city's budget, I forget exactly what the percentage works out to, but $144,000 in city dollars amounts to the equivalent of a trip to the grocery store for you or me. In other words, it's not so trivial that we can disregard it, but it's a very reasonable and affordable expense. We're not talking about, the equivalent of you or me going out and buying a new car. We're talking about the equivalent of you or me purchasing Christmas dinner. So, that said, I am.
Did
you have something?
No, I was going to.
I'm all set.
Okay. I just wanted to further emphasize that while it's $144,000 for the year. It's already baked into our annual accrual schedule for pension debt. And currently, beginning in fiscal 2024, our unfunded liability is $132,189,409, which will decrease millions at a time every year as we get closer to 2033 fully funded status. But our unfunded liability right now is $132 million. Big number. When you take 144,000 divided by the 132 million, in that context, we're talking 0.001% of our total unfunded liability. It's a 1,000th of a percentage. Very minor when compared to the whole UAL pie. So we're not, I want to emphasize, we're not burdening future budgets by doing this based on the magnitude of our unfunded liability status already. What I'm trying to say is every year that we've got a budget, 17, 18, $20 million, 1/1000th of a percentage impact is where it stands. It's immaterial in the whole grand scheme of the unfunded liability pie. And I just wanted to further emphasize that the solution to me is not to just say no to the retirees indefinitely, which I know our sister city did. Our sister city is fully funded in their pension system, not because they didn't give the retirees COLA adjustments. It's because they had different mechanisms of their rate of returns, their investment practices, their budgetary choices. It's apples and oranges. But this is not going to impact the city's budgetary requirements. Very insignificant, as I said, 1/1000th of a percent. And we need to take care of our retirees who dedicated their service to this city, dedicated their lives of service to this city, and for a measly fraction of $20 a month, it's immaterial in the grand scheme of things. Councilor Zarello?
One additional point I'd like to make for everyone's benefit is, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, I may have the exact number wrong, but pensions only vest after 10 years, right?
You are not allowed to collect anything unless you have at least 10 years of service.
Right. So we're not talking about, when we talk about our retirees in the city, we're not talking about people who worked for the city for 2 or 3 years between other jobs, or who, you know, did a little something here and there for the city. We're talking about people who dedicated at least a decade of their lives to this city. So this seems like really the least we can do for them.
And even more so, Counselor, we don't have a schedule of the 600 retirees and what their base pension, what their pension value is. Forget the 12,000, the 14,000 base. Like, how many are making 6 figures? I would assume the majority are not. You've got a lot of clerical staff I know that are retired right now. They weren't making 100,000. So, you could have retirees only work 10 or 15 years making a fraction of what they were earning for a salary. So it'd be always interesting to see the details, but we're not talking, padding the pensions of those making 130 or 150 grand. Those are the minority of collectees in this pool. So when you boil it down to even that level of detail, where we're talking someone's getting a $40,000 pension a year, it even is more insignificant and more of a reason why this would be important for them. So you got to take the totality of this discussion. You just can't look at it in a vacuum. And I am guilty of doing that when I first started here, but I, learned a lot more since then.
We learn as we go.
I guess I'll be Santa Claus and make a motion, we'll accept this.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded to accept, to recommend favorably 27922, there are no objections, I'll take this under unanimous consent. Seeing none, it's unanimous.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made, second to adjourn. If there are no objections, we are adjourned. Thank you.